Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank everyone for testifying on this really important issue because practically nothing, aside from a woman's right to control her own body, could be as important as voting. And we know that there are all kinds of efforts. After Shelby County, I think some 13 states immediately enacted what I would deem to be voter suppression laws. And these take all kinds of forms, and in fact, it's to make voting harder. Anything that makes voting harder, such as changing the times that people can vote, or changing where people can vote, or restricting the kind of identification that can be used to go and vote. These are all, I think, efforts. These are all efforts to suppress people's votes. So I have a couple of questions relating to what will be happening probably in this election cycle. I did want to ask one of our testifiers a question relating to robocalls. So this is for Mr. Hewitt. Last year, your organization brought to light a racially targeted voter suppression operation in the form of a robocall scheme. Probably these kinds of schemes are going to be utilized in this upcoming election season. I think they're pretty easy to do and maybe not that hard to stop. Can you, Mr. Hewitt, tell us a little bit more about the case that you brought and what kind of robocall was it and who did it target?
Thank you, Senator Hirono. During the 2020 election cycle, we received through the Election Protection Coalition hotline, 866 Our Vote, calls from voters indicating that they were receiving robocalls in which there was apparently a voice actor, we later learned, who was hired to say something to the effect of, if you vote by mail, the information will be used against you to collect outstanding debt, to execute outstanding police warrants, and to force mandatory vaccinations. The kicker line was, don't give your information to the man. We traced this to a gentleman named Jacob Wool and his compatriots, who we learned on the cheap were able to send 85,000 such robocalls, and they tried to target black voters. We filed suit under Section 11B of the Voting Rights Act. These individuals were later prosecuted successfully and convicted, and we won on summary judgment, and we're going after damages from these folks as well. We represented the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, which had to divert resources to address these issues and re-inform these 85,000 voters about what the law really provided. That was done on the cheap. That was in the 2020 cycle. Today, the same robocall could be done in an AI-assisted way, and it could clone the voices of people like Barack Obama or Morgan Freeman or Oprah Winfrey or anyone who's of notoriety, and people can be fooled. And so we need protection from this. We won our case because that was found to be voter intimidation, but not all mis and disinfo that's designed to chill the vote is going to rise to that level. So we need more protections.
Aren't there bills that have already been introduced that will prevent these kinds of robocalls from occurring?
There certainly are some bills introduced, which we can certainly talk about and figure how we can all rally around and support. There's also action by the executive branch, the FCC, to ban use of robocalls, at least in federal elections, AI-assisted robocalls, that is. And so when we think about how we make it easier to vote, and how do we actually make it harder to stop people from voting, we have to think comprehensively in this way.
Considering that the Voting Rights Act used to be reauthorized in a bipartisan way for decades, and suddenly the Supreme Court decided to become very activist, and the Shelby County pretty much decimated the Voting Rights Act, and then they went on in another case to make it even harder to go after Section 2 violations. So I do have a bill that some of you, your organizations, support, the Time Off to Vote Act. This is a bill that would require employers to provide 2 hours of paid time to vote. So for Mr. Hewitt and Ms. Lacken, your organization support this bill. Can you explain a little bit why you think that this is important, even in places where there is voting by mail?
Yes, absolutely. We definitely support this bill. There are far too many people in this country who are unable to take time off of work to be able to access mail balloting, which isn't available in the same way across the country. And so being able to, first of all, recognize the importance of voting, and recognize the importance of employers to provide that opportunity for voters is extraordinarily important and increases access in a way that we absolutely support.
Mr. Hewitt, would you like to add?
Thank you, Senator. We support that bill as well. And as I talk to people in corporate America, we ask them to do the same, whether they're legally required to or not, and also to lift up what they're doing because their reputational capital matters. We want to mainstream not just the active voting, but also the importance of opening up pathways to be able to exercise that right.
This bill already has dozens of sponsors. You know, can one of you submit the list of all the kinds of voter suppression laws that have been enacted across our country? My time is up, but maybe one of you can supply that to us, because voter IDs is just one of many, many ways dozens of ways that voter suppression is taking place in our country.
Thanks, Senator Hirono.
Thank you.
Senator Whitehouse.